Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is my wonderful group of students from AP Bio, and we're getting ready for our final multiple choice exam before our actual AP exam, before our actual final. And so the first chapter that we are responsible for in this unit is chapter 43. And we went over this a little bit in class already, the big ticket items that you needed to review. I want to make sure that you understand if there is an example that's given that if you could tell the difference between would this be evidence for a genetic basis of inheritance versus your environment. Could you do that? If I talk about learning, what would that be? What would that fall under? In your environment, right? That you would learn. If I said a mother bird picks up a piece of food, makes a certain sound, and drops the food and keeps doing that for her baby offspring, and they could be teaching them what type of food they have, what could you describe that as? What would that be an example of? There's cans inside my door. Yeah, look on the ground. What would that be an example of? Imprinting. Exactly. At a certain time, she could teach the baby bird like what to eat and what is food. And if you have something like, they've done experiments, and I don't think I talked about this in class, where the mother is looking at a picture or a model of a hawk, something she's afraid of, and the baby is looking at a bleach bottle. So they're seeing two different views. And the mom is making a call, danger, danger, danger. And because she's looking at a picture of the hawk, but the baby sees a bleach bottle. And later, when they show the baby bird a hawk, it's like, oh, it's all cute. But when they see a bleach bottle, they freak out and start running and hiding. That would also be an example of associative learning, right? And also what? If there's a certain time when they can learn that, what would that be? Imprinting. And the bleach bottle would be, or the hawk would be starts with two words. And we talked about sign stimuli. Yeah, it'd be sign stimuli. They're associating that particular stimulus. Now, if there's learning involved, it's not really, they might enter a typical response, but a fixed action pattern would be something in their DNA that they always respond to, like the red underbelly, right? Nobody had to teach them that. That would be something that's innate. That red color, when we talked about the stickleback, right? They know that triggers a particular response, just like if a female bird presents herself to a male bird, that triggers a fixed action pattern, a typical response of behavior. All right, so innate versus learned, and I gave you several other examples. I just thought I'd give you a few more. Let's see, the other thing I want is, could you tell me on the different, could you compare and contrast the different types of communication? Like if I said, which ones work the fastest, you would tell me. Visual and auditory, and if you're near them, tactile. Which ones work the fastest at a distance? Visual and auditory. Which ones work the fastest at a distance in the dark? Auditory, right? So you can analyze that. What are several different examples of, or at least give me another example, or give me some examples of tactile communication? The bee waggle dance. Give me another one. It would be a community behavior. What's something like one primate can do to another primate? Cleaning it, right? All those types of things. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, which is an example also of what kind of altruism? Reciprocal altruism. Is there any true sacrifice? No. Why? Right. So can it still benefit me even if I actually die? Can I still benefit me? My genes get passed on through who? My family, right? My other family members or siblings, right? And what is that called? Kin selection. But if I pass it directly to my offspring, that would be direct selection. I used the word direct. Dang it. Okay. We talked about things that contribute to overall fitness. We talked about territoriality. We talked about reproductive strategies. Talked about that. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I think we're good on that. Is there anything else about behavior that was tricksy? I thought that was pretty easy chapter. You want to talk about anything else? What? On behavior, did you want to talk about anything else? Actually, I do. What were the two types of associative behavior?
Classical and operant.
What one? Classical and operant. Which one would it be if I'm training my dog and he rolls over and I give him a treat? Operant. I'm rewarding a behavior. Okay? I'm rewarding a behavior. If, however, the can opener, I have an electric can opener, and he knows he's going to get fed every time I use that electric can opener, and he starts all over the place, that would be what? Classical. You see the difference? Okay, good. All right, anything else on behavior? All right. Okay, so our next chapter was population ecology. And are you good with the different types of distribution patterns? What are they? Okay, and what's the most common? What? And it's around what? Good. Okay. Could you draw for me the different survivorship curves?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just talking about clumped on distribution. Okay, what are the survivorship curves? Where do they all start? Top left, okay? Right here. Okay, which one would be an example of those little stickers that you get in your socks, and they kind of wind into your socks, all those stickers? What type of survivorship do you curve? Do you know when you have to pull them out if you go hiking? No, they like get stuck in those little, what do you call them?
Like birds.
Birds, like birds. Yeah, they get stuck in your socks when you go hiking.
Oh, you do little spiky things.
Yeah, little spiky things. What do you think that is?
Where are you guys getting your socks? Yeah.
I don't buy them that way. It's like if I go hiking. Sorry. Think about 10,000 things. What is it? Type 3. Why? Yeah, they're putting as many out there as possible, right? Okay? And then that bird that drills into your sock, that's an example of an adaptation, right? Right? Because how would that be helpful? I mean, it's annoying to me if I have to pull them out of my socks, but how would that be helpful to that plant? I'm going beyond this unit. I don't see it as a plant defense. Think again. Spread their seed, right? Why? What would they be doing? What? How? Get stuck in an animal's fur, right? By getting stuck in an animal's fur and that animal travels distance, they have a greater chance of their seed getting put somewhere else, right? That's why it's burrowing into their, just like it would burrow into your sock. Your socks haven't been around that long, but other animals have. Okay, so that's why they would attach into it. Okay, and that would be a good example of type 3. You're investing in making as many offspring as possible in hopes that some of them will make it. Who does that remind you of? What kind of selected species? Yeah, exactly. So when you look at type 3, this is often an example of an R-selected species. They're going for maximum reproduction. They're not investing in their young. Whereas when you look here at a type 1 graph, this is usually associated with a K-selected species. Check with the person next to you and see if they agree with that. Could they support that?
AP English meeting, if you guys didn't know.
They knew, but they thought they didn't have to be there. Did they have to be there? Sign up sheet for what?
It's like a book order form.
Oh, did everybody order your books? Okay, good deal. All right. Okay, come back to me. Is every organism's biotic potential the same? Okay, tell me about biotic potential.
Maximum reproductive rate.
Okay, what kind of things influence biotic potential? And can you give me a letter for that?
R max.
Yeah. So what kind of things affect your biotic potential?
Resource availability.
Biotic of an individual. How when they start, number of offspring, survival, sure, and how often. Okay, good. All right, could you graph the two graphs for me on the two types of growth curves? What do both growth curves have in common?
Exponential growth.
Before that, lag. They both have lag, right? They both have what? Exponential, okay? And if this is our J-shaped and here's our S-shaped, what else is different about this one though? Deacceleration, good. Why? Okay, so what's slowing them down? Yes, there is a carrying capacity. What kind of things? What's my letter for this, by the way? Okay, good. What kind of things are slowing them down? What do you call those? Competition, predators. Good. What do you call those?
Environmental pressures.
Environmental pressures. Be more specific. Starts with a D. Yes, density dependent.
Just start saying things out loud.
Yeah, usually density independent factors are what's going to slow them down. And is it just that their death rate's going to start being more than their birth rate? No. What? That wouldn't, you can't just say they're going to die more. It's not like they reach their carrying capacity and a bunch of them die. This is not the thinning, okay? But they are, there are things that are increasing the competition, so the best ones usually are surviving and reproducing, right? Unless there's some genetic drift involved. Remember genetic drift? Just curious, what are the two types of genetic drift? Founder's effect and what? Bottleneck, good. Did you do your, I gave you a Pogolon speciation. Have you tried that yet? Okay, did you do okay? Good review? Okay, and I also put up an Ed puzzle today on it. It's a long one. It's like 40 minutes. It's a long one.
The first question was so wholesome.
Yeah, and listen to me. You don't have to watch it all in one setting. You can come back to it or you can pause it because it's a long one. And I think I had it due Thursday morning, so it's after your test on Wednesday. Okay?
No, it's just a fun like the bows.
Okay, let's talk about your, you all must have done those practice problems by now, right? Do you want to do one, or are you okay?
Yes, please.
Here, I'll give you an easy one.
We should do one of them.
What will happen? Birth rate of 0.7, death rate 0.2, population of 420 individuals. How much do you think it's going to change? Birth rate, what did I say?
7.
So what would you write?
Mom just called me 7. Or you called me.
B equals 0.7. I said a death rate of what? 0.2. And I said number of individuals in the population is?
420.
420? Did I really?
Yes, 420.
I heard 420.
All right. So you are doing. You don't need to look at mine unless you're stuck, but I doubt you're stuck.
Me as well. You really picked 420.
I know. I don't know how I did that.
That's funny.
Kristen,
You sure I didn't say 480?
This is all videos.
I heard 420.
I know.
We have evidence.
It's just a number. It's what time I get up in the mornings. It's why it's in my head.
So cute.
That's not what I do in the mornings. I'm doing everything I can to stay awake. All right, so 0.7 minus 0.2 is what? 0.5, and this is referring, this right here is how you're calculating R, right? And this is N. Okay, so what is 0.5 times 420?
210.
210? Okay, so you would expect this population to change by 210. But what if I told you that the carrying capacity was 500? Now how much would the population change? What would we need to do?
It's K minus N over K.
Right? K minus N over N, right? We would take that same number. Oh, over K. Sorry, over K. I drew the equation right, I just wrote it wrong. So you're taking what? 500 minus 420 is 80. 80 divided by 500 is? You have calculators. You have phones. What is it? Okay, so 0.16 times 210 is?
34.
34. Okay, so why such a big difference? Carrying capacity, restricting the growth. Okay. What if your R was a negative number? What would you tell me? It's not going up by that many, it's going down by that many, if your R happened to be a negative value. All right, you okay with that? Go comfy? All right. Next. We reviewed, do you have density independent factors? Just give me two. A tornado, a drought, a flood. Good. Okay. Then we talked about R-selected populations and K-selected populations and who invests more in their young. So who invests more in their young? Who's larger? Who are colonizers? R. Good. Okay, you got that. Then we talked about MDCs and LDCs. And where do you see the highest growth rate? LDCs. What could we do to help them? And tell me about age structure diagrams. How does it broken down into what are the three groups? Okay, and what ones have a stable population? When it looks like a column. Okay, which one has a growing population? When it looks like a, pyramid. Good. All right, nice. Okay, and then we moved on into chapter 44 or 45, community ecology, yes? Okay. Okay, so key things on here. Could you tell me about islands? What could you tell me about islands? Okay. Islands closer to the mainland and larger, support the most biodiversity. Could we apply that to conservation biology techniques? If you're going to have a national park or a preserve for organisms, you want to have it as large as possible, right? There's nothing about close to the mainland, but what's something else, another technique you would know about them? Don't split it. You don't want to have any fragmentation because that'll make it smaller, right? Every road. Yeah. All right. Do you know the difference between a habitat and a niche? Can I share a niche with another organism? Well, who says I can't? Competitive exclusion principle. So you could have 5 different warblers living in one tree, all exploiting a different aspect of that tree through resource partitioning. There we go. That was I had to give you a lot of help on that one. Through resource partitioning, right? And the competitive exclusion principle says if they try to share the same niche, one of them's gonna make it. Okay. Predator prey. We seem to see what? I'm looking for a word, I don't know if I heard it. Cycling? Yeah, cycling between the predator-prey relationship. We talked about that there are some prey defenses. What are some prey defenses you could tell me about? Not hearing anything. Camouflage, sure. Yeah, you can either mimic a living or non-living thing, right? So mimicry is one. What were the two categories of mimicry? Baits and Malarian. Which one is, I am a fly, but I'm trying to look like a bee? Baiting. I'm trying to get you to take the bait, right? See if you'll take the bait and follow me. Whereas Malarian mimicry, Ori loves you. Michael.
I always love you, Michael.
Super special. If it's Malarian mimicry, I'm a bee, you're a wasp, we're both black and yellow, right? Yes.
What's the point of what's the point of looking like something but like?
Okay, it increases the learning curve. If you go to any city, do you think you could tell the difference between a cop and a non-cop? Why? They're wearing a uniform. It looks very similar. Could you tell the difference between somebody in the military and somebody that's a policeman? Probably, right? It increases the learning curve. There's an association with it. And so I don't have to get stung if a bee has a certain color and a wasp has a certain color, right? And a hornet has their own unique color.
Okay.
I have to learn for each one of them. But if we're black and yellow, all of us, I only have to learn on the wasp and apply it to all the other ones. The concern is if you get too many Batesian mimics, then it wears down the Malarian mimicry, right? If you get too many Pantalones and Fuego, pretty soon you're like, the black and yellow ones, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes they're tasty, sometimes they bite you know? Right? I'm sure that's on there. Okay. So far I only have islands written on here. Symbiotic relationships. When you're trying to identify what kind of symbiotic relationship it is, you know it's always going to be good for one. So you have to see if it doesn't harm the other one, if it doesn't say there's any harmful effect on them, then you're going to assume it is commensalism. If it harms the other one in some way, if it decreases their fitness in some way, it's got to be, if it increases their fitness in some way, it's got to be what? Mutual. Good. All right. We talked about change over time, ecological succession. And when we talked about succession on land, we said there were two types. Which one happens more slowly? Primary succession. Why? It doesn't have soil. You'll have to develop the soil first. All right? Then we talked about things like autotrophs and chemotrophs and decomposers, producers, right. So what do you have to have? What kind of heterotroph do you have to have in an ecosystem? We all know we need some sort of producer, right? What are the options on producers? Photo or chemo, right? It could be a phototroph like a plant, the beginnings of a grazing food chain. It could be a detrital food chain, right? That you have some source of nutrients. Or you could have a chemoautotroph, right? What kind of consumer do you have to have? Do you have to? What kind of heterotroph do you have to have? Let me make it more general. What kind of heterotroph do you have to have? Do you have to have an herbivore? What did you say? Yes. Why do you have to have a decomposer in your system? Recycle the nutrients. Right? Nutrients cycle, energy flows. So somewhere in your system you have to have a decomposer. Okay? All right. Good. And next we talked food chains, food webs. What one's a better model to use? Why? Shows all the interactions. Good. What do you know about a food chain? It's always going to go from, what can you say for sure? It's always going to go from more energy to less. And about how much gets passed along each time?
10%.
Why? Why only 10%? We're losing some of its heat. Who says we're going to do that? Second law of thermodynamics. Good job. Okay. Yeah, entropy increases. Good. We talked about chains, web. And if I stack my trophic levels up, I can form a pyramid. Good. Water cycle, you good with that? Okay. Carbon cycle, you good with that one? What's the thing we're going to associate to the water cycle? So much here. Just listen. Wait, what are we going to associate with the water cycle that we're concerned about? Us, how we screw it up. Pollution, give me some other ones. Damming. What else? Where's Krishna? What?
I just said eutrophication, and that's we'll look it up.
Did somebody say pollution in there? Somebody say sinkholes? Okay. Yeah. Groundwater. All right. Let's talk about the phosphorus cycle. On the phosphorus cycle, what are you concerned about there? Okay, you've got weathering will bring phosphorus from the soil, usually where rocks where it's locked, put it into an aquatic environment, then plants can pick it up, and then animals can eat the plants, right? And decomposers keep it all going. How does man screw it up? Eutrophication. What is that caused by? Over enrichment of a body of water, which can ultimately cause what of a lake? Death. Why? Because if you have a bunch of nutrients, you can have a bunch of producers. Why would that ever cause death? Lack of oxygen. Why? Decomposers breaking down all those plants, suck up all the oxygen out of the lake, and then that causes death of the lake. Good. On the carbon cycle, what are we concerned about? More CO2 being released, and that causes global warming, right? Because it blocks the re-radiation of heat, right? Bounces it back on the Earth's surfaces, melting of polar ice caps, changing of global weather patterns, right? Desalinization of the ocean, all those kind of things. Death. Okay. Good. Let's talk about the nitrogen cycle. Ready? Let's do the nitrogen one. Okay. So it starts off. What is the reservoir for nitrogen? Gases in the air, and it's what's the form? Give me the formula. N2. Can plants use that? Can we use it? Is it most of the air you're breathing in and out of your lungs right now? Yeah, about how much? So, okay, good. Okay, so we're going to do nitrogen fixation. Who's doing that? Can you give me an example of bacterium that can do that? Cyanobacteria. Where will it do it? In a heterocyst?
What?
Heterocyst?
What's
Well,
heterocyst?
that's a word. Let me teach it to you. Heterocyst. Nitrogen fixation is an anaerobic process, so it has to be done within an enclosed environment. So it could be within a heterocyst of a root nodule.
Oh, okay, yeah, we learned root
I not
nodules.
talking about that? Yeah, root nodule.
Root noodles.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, you're
That's
like,
amazing.
you don't know what we're talking about. Okay. Okay, nitrogen fixation, we convert N2 into ammonia. Then we do nitrification. Who does it? Nitrifying bacteria first forming nitrite, which is NO2 minus. Okay, and then we form nitrate, NO3. And you can think of it like it's the next 1, 2, 3, right? Ammonia, then NO2, nitrate, NO3, right? The third thing, once it's been fixed, that will help. Okay, nitrate can be given to who? Plants, and then animals can eat the plants, and the plants and the animals die. Who works on them? Back into ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, and you can do denitrification and return it back in, and bacteria are going to do that. Okay, and what's another way I can fix it without bacteria? Lightning. Okay, or factories can fix it as well. Okay, what's the problem with the nitrogen cycle? Yeah. Nitrous oxides. Yeah, okay. And that can cause pollution. Good. All right. So that was it for chapter 45. Chapter 46. Is that the ghost child or somebody come in here? Chapter 46, major ecosystems and the biosphere. All right, so things we want to know about this Earth here. What do we want to know about this Earth? It's on a tilt, which the tilt has to do with what? Seasons. What else?
Oh, it's a sphere, so you
A sphere, so what does that do?
different exposure.
Different amounts of energy, right? Different amounts of energy on different parts. Okay, what else could you tell me about this Earth?
Oh, 3/4 of it
Water. What else could you tell me about it?
3% is only fresh water.
Is our fresh water. Good. Good. All right. And most of that fresh water is locked up in glaciers. Good. And if I wanted to see all the biomes, terrestrial biomes, I could either, what? Go towards the poles or increase my altitude, climb a mountain, right? If I start in the coldest regions, what am I going to see here? Tundra. What are some characteristics of tundra? Permafrost. Good. What else?
Frozen desert.
Frozen desert. What else?
No life.
No, it has life. Seasonal life. No trees. Right? Not enough water to sustain them, plus that permafrost thing. Right? Okay. Then let's just take it up a notch. Let's give ourselves a little more energy and a little more water. Taiga. Another name. Coniferous forest, right? Christmas trees and Hanukkah bushes, right? Conical trees, so that the snow, what? Falls off and doesn't, what them? Break them. Good. All right, who's next? Deciduous forest. This is your Disneyland forest, nuts and berries, little animals running around. You got 4 seasons now, right? Broadleaf trees, a mixture. Then let's get a little warmer. What do we have? Yeah, tropical rainforest, okay? That tropical rainforest, and you have a lot of rain, right? Lots of stratification, increase, a lot of variety, a lot of biodiversity. What can be right next to a tropical rainforest? Desert. Why? Because the rain has fallen as the air rises, right? The heat warms up the air, it drops its water, and when it cycles back down, it's dry air, you can have a desert. Okay? Now I'm like inland. I don't have quite enough rain to support a tree. Plus I have lots of fire. Savanna or grasslands. Good. Really cold nights, hot days. I'm a desert. Okay, went back to desert. That's right. I have shrubs built to withstand fire. Shrubland or chaparral environment or oak park. Okay. I have a nutrient poor lake, lots of oxygen, clear water, opposite of eutrophic, oligotrophic. Good. All right. Water. What am I trying to say? Water ecosystems tend to have they're very what? Layered by what? Light, right? Temperature variations, salinity, if they're slow or fast moving, right? All those things are going to change if they're closer to the shore or farther from the shore. Okay, so you would want, what would be the tropical rainforest of the ocean?
The coral reefs.
Coral reefs, good. Okay, I'm good with that. And then that brings us to chapter 47. Chapter 47 was the very end, and I think you already know we can like run through this one in our head. Okay, on chapter 47, we talked about biodiversity, right? So the first thing I want you to tell me is, what are the types of biodiversity? Come on. Yes, you do. Genetic. What else?
Landscape.
Community and landscape, right? Those are the types. But think about this. Genetic biodiversity is within the population. Then there's community diversity. How many different species do you have, and what's the abundance of each of those species? Right? We go population, community, ecosystem, right? So we're looking at different landscapes in our ecosystems. So just remember this. Yes?
The landscape is actually about how the features of the land
Yes.
affect the biodiversity.
Yes. Okay, then we said the value of once we knew what biodiversity was, then we talked about the value of biodiversity. What were the two values? Direct and indirect. What were the three direct values of biodiversity? Medicinal, agricultural, consumptive. Okay, good. And then we talked about indirect. You know, like ecotourism, climate, water storage, bioremediation, right? Those were all indirect values. Okay, so now we know what is biodiversity. We know the direct and indirect values. Then we said, oh my gosh, we want to keep it. What could possibly decrease our biodiversity? And we said, extinction.
That was so sad.
It's gonna be a long day.
What decreases biodiversity? Again? Extinction. Let me tell you, I went through your test again today. I do not see it as being difficult. I don't see it as being difficult. And I'm not telling you to take your foot off the gas. What I'm telling you is, don't stress out so much over this test that you make yourself sick or tired. It is not worth staying up super late. Yes? Let me just tell you the question.
You just open up this one when it's done.
Can you?
Oh, God. Okay, so back on task.
Wait,
So-
how many highly suggested reading questions are there?
What?
How many highly suggested reading?
20,000. All right, come back to me. Extinction, okay? So what were the 4 things that contribute to extinction? Habitat loss, number 1. About how much? 85%. What was the next one? Exotic species, which was about 50%. Okay, what was the next one? Pollution, which was about 25% or something like that. Those were the top 3. Then what was next? No. What did you say? Overexploitation and then disease. Now, on habitat loss, we talked about that. They don't have as much room, right? We encroach upon their habitat. And especially we're cutting down the rainforest, right? All of those issues. On alien or exotic species, we have broken barriers. What were the causes of those broken barriers? I'll give you one: accidental transport, horticulture and agriculture, and colonization. Good. Then we also talked, yes? Horticulture is I just have plants in my house, and I let them go. Okay? Then we talked about pollution, and we had a whole bunch of different ones for pollution, right? And then we talked about disease. Next, we said, what can we do about it? And what are the 2 things we can do if we're concerned about all this? Habitat.
Habitat restoration, habitat preservation.
Yes, preservation, keep what we have, and restore. Yes, if you get a plan to get it back to its natural system, that's restoration, like what they did in the Everglades. Okay, if you have some plan to get it back to its natural system. Okay, questions, concerns about that? All right, I think you're good. Me too. Be ready. Do your highly suggested reading and thinking.